Welcome, class. This is Pre-Algebra 2, and we are on our third section of Chapter 0. I hope the weeks are going well for you now. You've got 1 week under your belt, and this is now our second week, actually, of our math class. This is goal 0.3. I will be able to solve percent problems. And so today, we're going to do 3 types of percent problems. But before we do that, just by way of a little review, again, if you have a piece of paper and you wanted to write these examples out as I go through them and then answer the embedded questions in the video, you'll be very successful at this. But we're going to start out by writing percents as a decimal. I want to review this. Writing percents as a decimal. Now, the word percent, it means out of 100. So per means out of, cent means 100, like century is 100 years. A centurion is a Roman officer over 100 soldiers. A cent, there's 100 cents or 100 pennies in a dollar. So it means out of 100. So 100 in our decimal system is 2 decimal places. We have, in our decimal system, we have ones, we have tens, we have hundreds, and then here we have tenths, and here we have hundredths. So to move 100 is to move 2 decimal points. So if I were to take 30% and make it a decimal, this means 30 out of 100. I could divide each numerator and denominator by a factor of 10 to leave 3 tenths. 3 tenths is 0.3. 3 tenths. Remember, this is the 10th position. The next one's the 100th position. Here's where the decimal was originally. Originally, it's after the 30. If you move it 2 to the left, you change the percent to a decimal. So I move the decimal point 2 to the left. All right, so that's pretty easy. I could take a number like 15%. Here's the decimal point, move it back 2 to the left. It's 0.15, 15 hundredths. I could do something like 3%. Right here is the decimal point, 3%. I move it 2 to the left, 1, 2, it's 0.03. I could have a number like 119%. 100% is the number 1, so 119% is bigger than 1. That's what my answer should turn out to be. So here's my decimal point, move 2 to the left. It is 1.19. And that is a number bigger than 1. I could do something, a very small percent, 0.0004%. What is this as a decimal? Move the decimal point 2 to the left. So it's point, and then I need to put zeros there. 0.000004. And that's your decimal for a percent. So you have to be able to write percents as a decimal. Now, let's start solving. There are 3 types of problems you're solving in this lesson. Here is problem 1. Problem number 1 will be the kind that say, what percent of 30 is 5? What percent of 30 is 5? All right, so on the first type of problem, here are a few things I want you to catch on every single one of these little story problems. The word is means equals. Like I could say 2 plus 2 is 4. Is means equals. So anytime that you see on your worksheet the word is, you could circle it and put an equal sign above it. The word of, that is one of our multiplying words. We're going to be covering this in a lesson coming up very soon. But the word of means to multiply. So every time you see this word, you can just think of multiply or times. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this. Now the directions on your homework says use a proportion. We're not using a proportion. You can cross that out on the homework. I'd like you to solve each of the problems this way. We're going to rewrite it with a decimal. So what percent? I don't know what percent, so I'm going to put the letter X. Of means times, 30 means equals 5. What percent is X times 30? X times 30. Or I could write that 30X. So if I solve this for X, what's the opposite of multiplying by 30? The opposite of multiplying by 30 is to divide by 30. So when I divide by 30, 30 divided by 30 is 1, it cancels out. X equals 5, how many, let's divide top and bottom by 5 to reduce. I want to reduce my fraction. 5 divided by 5 is 1, 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now the question is, what percent? X. So X is 1/6, but what percent is 1/6? What I need to do is I need to make this a decimal. Make a decimal. How do I do that? I take 1 divided by 6. Or you could use a calculator and just go 1 divided by 6. It'll give you a decimal. But longhand, 6 does not go into 1. 6 goes into 10 once. That gives me 6. Bring down 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring the 0 down for a place value. How many 6s in 40? 6 times 6 is 36. That's the closest one. 6 times 6 is 36. And it gives me a 4. 40 take away 36. Bring the 0 down. 6 goes into 40 6 times. And so now we're going to see it keeps doing that. 40 minus 36. And I'll always get a 4. So I want to make the decimal a percent. Because my question is what percent? Move the decimal 2 to the right. So the final answer is 16.6 repeated percent. Or if you rounded it, it'd be 16.7%. So to make a decimal a percent, you move it 2 to the right. To make a percent a decimal, move it 2 to the left. Okay, well, let's try one more. So this is, again, the first type of problem. What percent of 200 is 40? What percent of 200 is 40? 50% of 200 would be half of 200, or 100. So this is going to be less than 50%, right? 50% of 200 is half of 200. 50% is half. Half of 200 is 100. So this is going to be way less than 50%. Well, let's figure out what percent it is. What percent? I don't know. Of means to multiply. 200 is means equals 40. I'm going to solve this. I want x by itself. How do I get rid of multiplying by 200? I divide by 200, just like the last problem. X equals, I can divide by 10. Cancel out 1 0 numerator denominator. It's 4/20ths. To reduce this, 4 goes into 4 and 4 goes into 20. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 25 times. I now need to find the decimal for 1/5. So I'm going to go 1 divided by 5. How many 5s in 1? 0. How many 5s in 10? There's 2. 2 times 5 is 10. I do get a 0 remainder. I'll line that up better. So I'm done. My problem's done. Now remember, if you have a decimal, you move 2 decimal places to the right to make it a percent. Move it 2 times to the right, I get 20. What percent of 200 is 40? 20%. And that's less than 50%, as we figured it would be. Okay, let's do the second type of problem. Problem number 2. Problem number 2 says this. what number is 15% of 45? What number is 15% of 45? I'm going to do the same thing I did with problem number 1. What number, if I'm asking what number I don't know, so I'm going to use a letter, I'm going to use the variable y. I can use x, I could use y, I can use any letter I want for a variable. Is means equals. Now 15%, I want you to change that to a decimal. 15% as a decimal is 0.15. Move the decimal back 2. Of means to multiply. So it's 15 times 45. Wow, if I could do 15 times 0.15 or 15 hundredths times 45, I get my answer. So I'm going to do it longhand because I have a calculator over there, but I want to use my brain. I want to remember all my multiplication facts. And we don't have that many problems to do, so if you can, I'd like you to try to do as much as you can without a calculator. 45 times 0.15, or 15 hundredths. 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 20 plus 2 is 22. Bring a 0 down for a place value. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 4 is 4. Add this up, 5, 7, 6. And then how many decimal points do I have? I have 2 decimal places right here, so I need to move 2 decimal places right here. What number is 15% of 45? The answer is 6.75. 6.75. If you did this with a calculator, you'd get the same answer right away. But you could use a calculator to check your work. Does this make sense? What is 50% of 45? Half of that would be 22.5. So 50% is 22.5. So 15 is going to be way less than that. So that's a reasonable answer. It's a very good answer, a reasonable answer. Okay, that's problem 2. And let me show you the third type of problem that you'll work on this week. The third type of problem. We'll do more of this during our half-hour Google meetings. Here's problem 3. Would be 5 is 22% of what number? 5 is 22% of what number? So again, every single problem that we do is going to be similar, but everything is a little bit out of order. So the third problem, you have a number here, 5. I will rewrite the 5. Remember what the word is means? Is means equals. 22% you'll change to a decimal. 0.22. The decimal point was here, go 2 to the left. 0.22. Of means to multiply. And then if I don't know the number, it's x. Again, now how do I get x by itself? What's the opposite of multiplying by 0.22? Dividing by 0.22. So, I get x by itself. If I can figure out 5 divided by 0.22, I get the answer. So 5 goes inside the box, 0.22 on the outside. Long division. It's probably been a long time since you've done some. We did some actually 2 years ago in our intermediate algebra class. But I'm going to move the decimal 2 to the right, so I move this decimal 2 to the right. All right, so how many 22s in 500? 22 goes into 50 twice. 22 times 2 is 44. Borrow 10 minus 4 is 6. Bring the 0 down. How many 22s in 60? Well, 22 times 3 is 66. So that's too big. So there's still 2. 2 times 22 is 44. Subtract. Borrow. 10 minus 4 is 6. 5 minus 4 is 1. Now I'm going to bring a place value down. How many 22s in 160? Well, this will be a little bit harder, but I can try some different numbers. I can guess 20 goes into 160 4 times. So let's try 4. 22 times 4 is 88. All right, let's try that. How many 20s in 80? 20s in 80 is 4. 20s in 160 would be 8. So let's try the number 8. 16, 176. That's too big. 8 is too big, so let's try 7. That's the number we were trying for. 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 1 is 15. We can reduce this or subtract these. 10 minus 4 is 6. Bring a 0 down, and 22 goes into 60 2 times. So we'll leave it at that. So 5 is 22% of what number? 22.72, and then it continues on. So it's approximately 22.72. Now let's see if that makes sense. What's 50% of 22? 50% of 22 is 11. What's 10% of 22? 10% would be 2.2. So 5 makes sense. 5 makes sense because doubling this, 20% is like 4.4. 22% will be a little more than 4.4 or 5. So you can even do some of these types of tricks to make sure your answer is a reasonable answer. Okay, so those are your 3 types of problems. You now will have a worksheet, and on the worksheet, I mean, although it says 30 problems, there's really not 30, it's cut and pasted. It jumps from 8 to 15, from 22 to 28, from 28 to 30, so there's not 30 problems here. But write the percent as a decimal. Down here, solve using this method, these 8 questions, and you have a nice little story problem down here. I'll answer any of those questions that you have during our Google meetings. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great time with this lesson. Thank you.